right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited to call this lady my friend, Suzee Anderson of beautiful Utah. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we're going to talk all about pickleball academies, pickleball trainings, pickleball, all kinds of stuff. But what I want to do first is I want to bring up my slides because you guys know we always have something to announce here. So I'm going to do that from the beginning. So Suzee, you can see my slide?
I can sure see them.
Okay, great. So, of course, this is us. We're here today. We're going to talk all about pickleball coaching and scaling, and it's going to be an amazing time together. But I also want to let you know that Court Reserve is so excited. We just partnered with Racket X and the City Series Tour. We're going to be in Philly next weekend. It's going to be exciting. We're just glad because we know Racket X is doing such a great job in all kinds of tennis and pickleball and padel and badminton, and they're just bringing lots of great clubs together. So we are excited to be with them. Actually, Jill and I are going to be in Philly. So if you want to come hang out with me and Jill in a couple weeks, we're going to Philly. We're actually going to do a giveaway on Instagram. We're going to give some tickets away to the Philly stop. So if you're not on the Court Reserve Instagram, I would highly recommend that you jump on there and become our friend. And if you have not already signed up, it may be too late this week, but if you can hop a plane to Salt Lake City, Club Pickleball USA is putting on a phenomenal mastermind. I think there's like 40 people already going. They're going to spend a couple days learning. And if you can't make this week, highly encourage you to make the next one. And we'll find out when those dates are, usually in the fall. And then we're always about helping you guys train. And instead of you coming to us, we're coming to you. So there's two new Court Reserve Catalyst Tour stops this fall. The first one's in Seattle, Washington, and the second one is up in New Jersey. Again, you can go out to courtreserve.com and learn more about Catalyst, and we'll take it from there for sure. All right, let's get started. I'm so excited. Suzee, tell us, how'd you get into pickleball?
Oh man, well, I'm kind of a dinosaur because I've been playing pickleball for 11 years, which, some people are like, it's been around that long. Yes, it's been around that long. The only people that really beat me out are the people that actually grew up in the Pacific Northwest and they got taught it, at school. But funny story really fast. I actually picked it up at a local rec center. My husband's a career firefighter and they would go to work out at the rec center and they saw this. It's the classic story, this old guy that was playing this weird game and he taught all the firefighters how to play, and my husband begged me for 6 months because I came from a tennis background, come play this game. It's called pickleball. I'm like, that sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And then he tells me the game has 3 numbers in the score and only 2 teams. I'm like, it is officially the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. So after 6 months of begging, I was training for long distance triathlon. I was into half Ironmans at the time. 6 months of begging, I finally showed up and I played. And within 3 months, I'd sold my bike, quit training, was all in on pickleball, and I was sponsored and playing professionally within 2 years.
Wow, fast track. So how did you get to Club Pickleball USA?
So Club Pickleball USA, I was playing professionally at the time. This was back before the PPA tour was around. And I was also teaching on the side when I was at home. And I happened to meet Mike Egan, who is the father of the father and son duo of Club Pickleball USA. Mike looked around to see who could teach him how to play pickleball. And I happened to be the person that had the word of mouth and the branding, and he found me. So I started teaching Mike. At the end of it was at the end of a summer, would have been summer of 2020, the end of summer 2020. And Thanksgiving Day of 2020, my student Mike Egan sends me a schematic to an indoor pickleball club. And I said, "What's this?" And he says, "Do you want to be our head pro?" I'm like, "Heck yes, I do." And then, a few days at the beginning of the next week, I show up to this it was a home base, like a Home Depot. I show up, they're grinding the floors down. You can hardly see anything because of all the concrete dust in the air. And that's where the relationship started. And I ended up not only being the head pro, but also the founding director. I helped build all the play-based programming, which I later handed off to them. And then I've delved into just developing the coaching academy.
That's amazing. So, what makes your journey through pickleball at the club level so special to you?
Um, oh, a lot of things. It was really just it was a great opportunity for me. I needed to leave playing professionally because I needed to stay home and raise my teenagers. And I'm a very driven type A, go, go, go gal. And um, I loved that it was this new place to put all my competitive nature in, but it was to be the best club, the best coaching academy, the best coach. Um, I loved that drive and that progress is very fulfilling to me. I can actually tell you I love coaching way more than I ever loved playing professionally because it's fulfilling not just on a personal level, but I love to see the fulfillment and the growth of my students. It's very meaningful to see how it enriches other people's lives as well as my own. And that's been probably the greatest, high of the whole scenario is the connections and the people and the relationships and just sharing in the growth.
And that's what pickleball is all about. So for sure. So when you were at the club full time, directing, doing events and programming,
Yeah.
how do you decide what to put on the event calendar as far as programming goes? Or how does a director learn to do that?
Well, it's a little bit of trial and error because we have two clubs here in Utah now, and technically we have three locations, but one is like a little satellite extra spillover location that's 5 minutes from our Sandy Club. So we have our Orem Club and we have our Sandy Club. And our demographic in the two counties, they're 25 minutes apart from each other. The demographic is totally different. So a lot of it is you have to figure out what does your demographic want? Who are they? And almost any club's going to have a daytime demographic and an before and after work hour demographic, and you got to know what they both want. And then you start planning the programming around it. And a lot of it is you put stuff on the calendar and you see what fills. You see what they're excited about. Then you start hearing, you start talking to them, you interact with them. It's all about community. You're building this space, you're creating an experience for them. So you think about it, what experiences, not necessarily what events, but what experiences do my player base want? Figure it out, add more of them. If they keep filling, it's like, oh, well, how do we, okay, the 3-5 on Monday nights from 7 to 9 is always full. Okay, what if we did a team night? What if we did a mixed doubles date night? You just start kind of seeing what are the different variations. When you find something that works really well, find some variations. If something doesn't work, don't beat the dead horse for very long before you take it off the calendar and put something different on. Or ask, why isn't this working? Why isn't this filling? Talk to your player base. You know, do people just not know about it? Or is the time not right? Or, you know, the women all want to play at that time, but they want to play only with women, not mixed gender. And so a lot of it is learning what you want. Our Sandy Club, they want events all day long. I mean, we run bazillions of round robins, kings courts, paddle battles, the whole shebang. My Orem location, they actually like open play and booking their own courts. Our we don't fill as many events. In the evenings we do, but not in the daytime. And so it's just you come up with an idea, you put it on the calendar, you try it, you collect the data. You got to have a way to collect the data, and then you make an adjustment or you keep adding to. And so it's really get to know your players, make smart decisions, collect the data quickly, and make adjustments.
So is there an event or a program that surprised you, that you were surprised that it took off as well as it did, maybe?
I haven't had any that I wouldn't say that I've had some that surprised me that they did take off. I've had some that I was really surprised were total flops. For interesting in the coaching academy world, most of my pickleball players out here in Utah are pickleball players. Not meant not you go, I support a club out in Chicago. There are tons and tons of tennis players that come in. So cardio pickleball or like live ball, which are both kind of tennis events that we've changed into pickleball. My Utah players, they hate them. They won't sign up for them. I know places in California and places in big tennis communities, they cannot get enough of cardio pickleball and live ball. They love them, but they're familiar with them. My pickleball players, they're like live ball, which I think is a great event, but it's more of a pressurized, fast-paced event where they're still learning, but they're like, how do I win? And it's like, there isn't a winner. It's not something you can win.
It's your health. Your health is
Yeah.
the winner.
And it's your health. You're moving more. But you're also practicing your shots in a high pressure situation. But they're like, how do I win? I'm like, well, you don't. Well, why do I want to do that? Okay, so we'll take that off the calendar.
Yes, quickly. Yes, yes, yes.
Right? Or we had a flex league that we offered multiple different times. It was like the same league, there were so many options, nobody took any of the options. Like we thought that Devin and I were talking about the other day. We're like, remember the Kings League? We're like, yeah, that stunk. You know what I mean? But we thought it was going to be the great idea, and it's like,
Okay.
so yeah, I was more surprised by the flops than I was by the successes.
That's good to know though, because again, like even at Old Coast Pickleball, we've had to completely take things off the calendar that we thought were going to be big hits. And
Oh
like
yeah,
when two people sign up, you're like, no, we're not doing this again.
I'm like, well, they didn't
Yes.
want that.
All right, let's talk about coaching because
Uh,
you have a passion for coaching. You have created an entire coaching program. Tell us, how did you get started? Where did this start from? And let's just start talking about your coaching program.
so, um, by nature of limited time, I had I had coaches and I needed to train them and I needed to mentor them. And I found rather than trying to mentor them all in person or have them spend all this time shadowing me, I knew how every skill and every drill should be taught. And so I happened to come from a background. I got a degree in commercial photography. I was a commercial photographer for 16 years before I started into my second career. I haven't figured out what my third career will be but for right now we're on number two. Um, so I started filming for my coaches because I have 13 coaches over two locations. One location's 45 minutes from my house, one location's 15 minutes from my house. So I'm like, how am I going to train all these coaches and be time efficient? So I videoed everything. Um, so every skill and every drill that is taught in my club is videoed. The other thing that I felt was so, so important in creating value in our training academy is we all had to be on the same page. They couldn't go to Coach Bob and get taught how to hit a third shot drop and then come to Coach Suzee and get taught a whole different technique of hitting a third shot drop. That student is now saying, where was my money well spent? And while there isn't necessarily my way is the only way to teach, there has to be consistency to bring value to your brand. And so I'm like, I got to get all these coaches on the same page. There's got to be continuity. It also takes away the competition between coaches. Then people are picking coaches based on the personality that fits them and less about this one does this better and this one does this better. We're all doing the same thing. We deliver it maybe subtly different because of our personalities, but it's the same, structure that we're teaching. So I filmed everything. That's the way I'm teaching everything. And then I've realized as all these clubs are popping up, so many places don't have a me. How do they build an academy if they don't have somebody that can write the curriculum, that can train all the coaches, get all the coaches on the same page? It was already digitized. So not only do I support my two clubs here in Utah and my 13 coaches, where I am boots on the ground coaching on the courts. But I support 9 other academies outside of the state of Utah with curriculum, with coach training, with continuing education with their coaches. Um, and it brings value to your club to have a great coaching academy because now you're a one-stop shop for everything that a pickleballer needs. There's fun, there's community, there's growth, there's a pathway of progressing, all the things that bring everybody into this great sport, right? And then it keeps them there in your clubs.
I love the progression part because coming from tennis, right? it takes sometimes years for people to be able to go out and accurately, like, even do a set in tennis because of how big the court is and how the strokes are and everything. And that's what we've heard in the pickleball world, is how do I as a coach transition from lessons in tennis to being lessons in pickleball? How have you helped people see that and the value in that, and the value in this way of coaching?
Absolutely. So I'll address it kind of in two ways because you've talked about like a tennis coach switching to pickleball, and it's not mini tennis. I recently worked with all the tennis coaches for Cliff Drysdale tennis, and helping them to see there's some great things from tennis that we bring into pickleball, and then there's things that we're going to leave in tennis and we're going to do them different in pickleball because it's a smaller court, it's different equipment, it's a paddle and a hard ball. Um, because the court's smaller, we move differently. Um, they bring great things like their ability to load and rotate, all these things. So there's lots of things to bring in, and I address that when I'm training coaches, especially coaches that came from tennis or are teaching in a tennis heavy area, right? Of there's some pretty clear distinctions of keep these, throw these away. Um, and so there is a shift there, and there needs to be a willingness to see the differences, appreciate the differences, and embrace them if you're transitioning there. When it comes to progression pathways for your students, it's all about having expectations of what each skill level should be able to do. And in the curriculum that I build for my in-person and remote academies, there is a progression in in their series. Like we have a 250 series, that's for two fives. We have a 300 series, that's for three O's.
Hmm.
The 300 series is giving them the skills that they would need to become a 3.5. We're already assuming they have the skills of a 3.0, but now we're going to give them, work on the skills for the 3.5. And we have it set up in a way that it can be ongoing. They can jump in the series any month in the series. They don't have to start at lesson one. So it's progressive in that the 300 leads to the 350. But by nature, I can't be starting, say it's a 12 weeks of lessons. I can't be starting a new one of those every month. There's not bandwidth, there's not court time. And so it's built out so they could jump in on week 5 or on week 9 and still go through the series. They repeat through, but it gives them this beautiful progress. It educates them on the expectations of what they need to know. We're going to give them the tools. Hopefully they go out and practice. It's always up in the air.
Right. Well, that's true. How is it that you can take someone who maybe is a great pickleball player, right? Does that always translate to being a great coach?
Oh no. The best pickleball players I know are horrible coaches. And the reason being is a great pickleball player, sometimes they do a lot by feel. They're that kid that was freakishly athletic. They watch the coach do something and they can just do it. But a great coach can take this is a classic student of mine, the stay-at-home mom that is finally an empty nester and all her best girlfriends are playing pickleball and she doesn't want to look like a fool. And yet she doesn't have any sports background. Maybe she was a cheerleader, maybe she was a dancer, maybe she was the brain and she didn't do any sports or athletics. And to take sometimes that really athletic, extremely talented pickleball player can't actually talk to that student of this is where I need you to turn this toe and your hip's going to do this and then you're going to rotate through. You have to be able to, you have to know the technical competencies of every shot, how they interwork, and how to actually communicate and get somebody to do that. And some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic learners, and you actually have to hold their paddle or their arm or, move their shoulders to get them to do it. And so sometimes that really great pickleball player, they never had to learn it like that. They could just see it and do it. Like, I got a great friend, Tyler Loom. Y'all know Tyler Loom. And Tyler will admit to you that he's not the best at coaching. Tyler's great. He's great with strategy, but like when it comes to mechanics, he just feels it so well, and he's always felt it so well. Breaking it down for him is difficult. Great guy, great player, great at coaching strategy and things like that. But your 2-5 and your 3-0 and even your 3-5, they need mechanics, right? And so having somebody, one of my best coaches is actually 80 years old. Love Bob. That man can teach the beginners. He has the patience. I mean, patience all day long. And everybody's like, one of my young guys was like, "You're hiring Bob?" I'm like, "Yeah, you just watch." And he is like the beginner whisperer.
So how do you take an individual who says, you know what, I want to be a pickleball coach, like through your academy and what you've done, like give us like the 4 different things or the 5 different things. Like, how do you take them from player or maybe I want to coach or I want to learn to being able to like hold their own and to be able to go to a club and get a job as a coach?
The first thing I'm going to tell anybody to do is get certified. Um, I got my hat on. I'm a coach developer for PPR and an education consultant for PPR. Um, that means I'm kind of biased towards them. But um, if you get certified, say you're a good player and you want to move into coaching the coaching sphere and you want to get hired by a club. Any reputable club should be hiring somebody that's certified. Why? Well, number one, you're going to come with liability insurance. Number two, you've shown that you're interested in investing in your craft with both time and finances, that you want to be taken legitimately. You're not just the guy pulling a basket of balls out of the trunk of his car at the city park. You're more than that. You're a brand, you're a professional, right? And so the first step in looking professional is get some credentials, right? PPR, we focus very heavily on how to coach and what to coach, but there's a big emphasis on how to coach. We have a level 1, we have a level 2, and we've got some more specialty courses coming out as well in the next year. But the first thing I would say is get certified. The second, start practicing. Really learn the components of each of we call them the technical competencies. They'd be grip, stance, your paddle prep shape of the shot, contact point, weight transfer, and your recovery. Those are the 5 competencies of any shot. If you don't know those things, well, how are you going to teach somebody? How are you going to know that they're popping a ball up every time because their stance is wrong or their grip is wrong? You have to know how they interact. You have to be the fountain of all knowledge. Your player hits the ball in the net, you must have the answer. So you've got to you got to have the knowledge and you got to train yourself to see the knowledge, right? And that just comes with practice. The other thing, you got to have people skills. At the end of the day, people come back because they like you and you were fun. They have to have a good time. They have to feel good about themselves. The other thing that people forget about being a coach, you're a salesman all at the same time as being a coach. It sounds sleazy and we all hate it, but at the end of the day, don't give them all your information in one lesson. Give them enough that they can digest and allude to what's next and invite them to come back again, right? It's salesmanship. And so you have to be comfortable with all those things. But the biggest thing is create your own personal brand in essence of who you are as a coach. What are you known for? If you have a personal brand, if you have an identity as a coach, you're hireable, word of mouth will go around, you will be a professional, and that's really what people are looking for.
Now, you've been in pickleball a long time and you probably learned to play pickleball one way, but teaching someone to play pickleball today is probably a little bit different than, 11 years ago. What's the difference now than if you would have done this 11 years ago?
Um, well, even since I started teaching 6 years ago, the way we teach the game is different. The game has changed. The paddle technology, the pro tour with the bigger contracts, more tennis players coming in. The game is changing. It's much more offensive. It's much more aggressive. I laugh and tell my students, I'm like, when I was a pro, we would have dink rallies that were 80 dinks. 80 dinks. There's no speed ups, guys. 80 dinks. I kid you not. Like, we're playing with composite paddles, right? You couldn't do the stuff that they can do now with the paddle technology. And so the game's gotten much more offensive and it's modern. We saw tennis do this when the Williams sisters came in. No longer was it like the, Chris Everett and Steffi Graf days of tennis, it was the Williams sisters. It was power. It was load and rotate. It was, more spin, open stance, all these things. Well, we've seen the same thing happening in the last 2 years in pickleball, so we teach it differently. It no longer are we approaching the net as a wall. We're approaching staggered because it's more offensive. Um, we're not watching our partner hit our third. We're not dinking for survival. We're dinking for manipulation to get what we want. I hardly even use the word reset when I'm teaching. I teach my students, I want you to hit a neutral ball. Reset to me is so passive. It's like, oh, now I'm in defense mode. I want to be in defense for as minimal amount of hits as possible. And then I'm back in the driver's seat. Being in the driver's seat doesn't mean I'm hitting the crap out of the ball. Being in the driver's seat means I'm putting a ball somewhere to make my opponent uncomfortable. And I teach a lot about ball recognition. I know what I'm going to hit as my opponent is hitting their shot based on where's their weight, where's their paddle, what's their court positioning. The ball recognition piece starts on the other side of the net. It's gotten so fast. I can't decide what I'm doing when the ball's bouncing in front of me. I have to decide when they're hitting the ball, what I'm doing next. And this is the new, more modern way that we're teaching pickleball because it's fast, it's aggressive, it's offensive. Aggression and offense isn't always power. It's placement. There's lateral pressure, there's forward pressure. And that's the style that we teach in my academies. It's new, it's modern, it's up to date, and it throws a lot of people because there's lots of coaches still teaching the old way because
So
we're go ahead.
yeah, that's what I was going to say is, in Florida, for instance, you can go out here to the public park and sometimes people are out there being a coach, right? And so now it's how do we make sure in the future of pickleball that we are being coached and able to get a hold of coaches to bring them into our facilities that are trained and teaching up to standards of what the play is like today for us as social players.
Yeah, and I think that it goes back to, the accreditation. Do they have credentials? Do they have a certification? If they have a certification, and they're active in their continuing education, I mean, the way when I became a coach developer for PPR 5 years ago versus now, we don't even talk about the game the same way we did, right? But I've stayed involved. It's not, did you get a cert 5 years ago and then never do anything more? It's are you staying active in these organizations that are continually building the sport as it grows and progresses?
So if somebody was interested and they wanted to develop their own, training academy at their own club, what are some of the steps that you would encourage them to take in this day and age?
Um, they need to get a good head pro that's willing to lead. Um, whether that head pro is falling in line with support with curriculum, and training with somebody like me, or they have the ability and desire to build their own, you've got to have somebody that's going to lead, it's going to be a go-getter, and building that continuity, you really have to look at it as you're building a brand. That's what you want from your coaching academy, not just we've got these 5 guys that teach pickleball when they have extra time. Like there's got to be some organization, just like you have organization to the rest of your club management. You can't have organization and value and brand identity everywhere and then just here's these schlubs that teach for us, right? Make it all professional. Um, And so you have to find somebody that's willing and interested in leading that way. Some clubs, I mean, I believe you only have 2 courts at Old Coast,
We
right?
do. That's correct.
I mean, a smaller club, 2 to 4 courts, even 6 courts, it's realistic to think that your director could also be your head teaching pro. They're going to have at least 1 or 2 more probably teaching pros below them because they can't carry all the directorship and all the teaching on their own. Maybe on 2 courts they probably could. But you get into the 4 and the 6 courts, but it's having clear expectations and a vision and a brand and really being polished and finding somebody that's how they're going to operate. And like I said, the best player isn't always the best coach.
So what do you think when clubs and academies or clubs and facilities, they're ready to take the next step, right? They want to hire this head pro, this club director. What are some of the best things they can look for besides, hey, yeah, I have my certification, right? How do you bring somebody in and hire the right head pro or club director?
Um, well, I always tell my clubs that I support that, that they're looking for coaches. I'm like, well, I'll ask the owner, I'm like, well, do you play pickleball? They're like, yeah. I'm like, then go take a lesson from this person. It's Don't even tell them you're looking to approach them to hire them. Just go, it's like being a secret shopper. Go take a lesson. Uh, are they professional? Did you learn something? Uh, was it organized? Have an idea in your mind of what qualities you would want in a head pro. Professional, organized, stays on task, all those kind of things, like actually delivers some value. If those things show up in the lesson, well then approach them. Because there are a lot of coaches that are just kind of freelancers doing their thing here and there, and you'll have some that are building a brand, even though they kind of teach here and they teach here and they teach here. But if they're professional, they're organized, they're building a brand, you actually like the product they delivered from your secret shopper experience, that's the kind that you go and approach and be like, we've got a club and we need a head pro. Is that something you're interested in?
I love it. So when you're, 11 years ago and you came to Club Pickleball USA and, you've been there for a while now, what
Yeah.
are some of I guess, benefits or, things that coaches are being offered today that you see as something that's powerful? Because, we're trying to make, this is a profession that wasn't around 10 years ago, being a professional pickleball coach or a head pro of a pickleball club. So what are some of those benefits? Like, I don't know, insurance is important, regular benefits. How do they provide the extra benefits to gain these good pros and directors at their clubs?
So, I have I feel like pickleball coaches are interesting. If I were looking at it from a club owner, we actually pay all of our pickleball coaches. It's all commission based. You eat what you hunt.
Mm,
Um, because I've seen it happen in other way. It's different for a director because they have lots of things that they're doing on the director side, organizing, managing, that can't really be commission based as well. But I found pickleball coaches are a little bit interesting. If you don't keep them motivated, they take advantage. I've seen it happen in multiple clubs. And so, and most of them right now are still freelancers.
okay.
You know what I mean? All of our coaches are, on a 1099. They're a contractor. Um, but a director and a head pro would be different. Um, and so, but the benefit that these coaches are getting is they get exposure to all the clientele that the club is bringing in. People that they're not going to get exposed to by just wandering around the city park. They have a guaranteed court. Rain, wind, lights out, whatever, they have a guaranteed court that's going to be there no matter the weather, no matter how busy the courts are. Do you know what I mean? A guaranteed court. Um, they have, it's a place to hang your shingle, right? We put banners with a QR code that shows our coaches, here's Coach Josh Peterson. This is his duper. This is his favorite shot. This is how long he's been playing. And here's a QR code. Scan this if you want to, lesson with Josh. And it immediately populates your phone with a text message. Hey Josh, I want a pickleball lesson from you. Ta-da! Easy. You don't get that at the park, right?
Right.
You don't get a business card with your phone number on a front desk where hundreds of people walk by. And so the biggest benefit is the exposure, the home base, the community. We're offering more training, right? They're getting curriculum provided. We fill the classes, they show up and teach them. And so there's lots of benefits in essentially the hunter-gatherer mentality for those coaches, even though we're not providing you know, insurance and all those other things for them. It would be a different story if I'm hiring a full-time director head pro.
That's great though, because I do think it's the hunter gatherer. It's you got to be your own salesperson. You got to go out and create your portfolio of clients for sure. So I love that. So, what is the best thing that you get to do when you are supporting? I know you have several clubs that you're already working with your academy. What's the best thing like when you get out of the bed in the mornings and you know you get to work one of those? What's the best thing for you about that?
Um, so I love it without fail. So when I onboard new, what I call my remote academies, the ones that are outside of Utah, that most of them just most of the time, 99% of the time they're getting the digital version of me. But when they choose to onboard in person and I show up for a 1 or 2 day visit, my favorite is blowing their minds with this new modern way of pickleball because most places don't see it or teach it. I'll show up and I'll start hitting a third shot drop, and their coaches are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, let me show you. And I break it all down, and then they go and they're like, oh my gosh, that isn't even that hard to do, but look at how effective that is. Or I have a way that I divide the court up into chunks visually, and these different lanes on the court give me expectations. If I put a ball here, I'm expecting it to come back. And this is how we teach people to build points. Well, I'll get out there and I've got these coaches that are just kind of greeny coaches still, right? And I teach them this, and they're seeing it happen in their own game. I remember I went and onboarded in Cleveland, and I had this guy, and I was teaching him, I'm like, if you put a ball here, you should expect it coming back here. And we started playing, and he had like 3 like clean put away winners. Nobody touched him based off of this pattern and this new mentality because he positioned his body different because of his expectation was different. And he was so excited that he was now doing it for himself and he couldn't wait to go share it with everybody else. And so it's blowing their minds with this new way of seeing the court, teaching your students, modernizing, like it's just stuff that hasn't even they didn't know what they didn't know. And I love their faces when they light up. He was so excited about those winners in Cleveland. He was so excited.
So you take those like almost like fresh, right? And you teach them something new.
Yep.
How do you handle also teaching them when they have to go back to their own facility, their own academies, and now they're going to integrate everything that you've taught them or learned, the overwhelmingness of that, right? How do you help them not become overwhelmed with all this new stuff?
Um, there's tons of online support. Like I said, every skill and every drill that's in any lesson plan that they have access to, it has a QR code right next to it. It has a written version and a QR code. They have access to the digital version of me at any time. There's a vault of over 300 videos of skills and drills they could peruse. And so there's tons and tons of online support that they have access to me. And even my own coaches will use it too. They're like, oh man, I got this person, they need to work on their swinging volley and I don't know what drills. And it's like, I'm like, get on the vault. So they get on the vault and they're like, oh, it's right there. Boom. So there's lots and lots of support that they can access at 3 a.m., at 5 a.m., when I'm on vacation.
24 hours, Suzee.
It's slightly scary. I have a lot of students and even some of my coaches, they're like, you're the voice in my head. I hear you talk to me all the time while I'm playing. I'm like, that's creepy.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, so you've done this now. You've done the director or the head pro. You've played professionally. You've created the Suzee Anderson Academy. So, I mean, like, what's next? We've already talked about the third career. It's not there yet. What's next for the academy right now? So, what are you looking forward in the next couple years?
Um, so I'll still continue to teach and support academies because I love it. I love the people, it's the people aspect. But I'm looking I'm going to be doing some education consulting with PPR. For those who don't know, it's the Professional Pickleball Registry. We're one of the governing bodies of how the sport is taught. And helping more, the next level up is coaching the coaches.
Mm.
Um, and so running more of those workshops, helping develop more content with PPR. And so that's kind of my next adventure into being creative and developing more to help the pickleball community on how to learn and how to play better. And so, taking some more roles there, and not to like toot my own horn, but I was the PPR, the 2025 PPR Pro of the Year. So just a bigger,
Wow.
yeah. So just a bigger role with PPR in the future is kind of, where I'm looking. Um, but more consulting with them at the time, at this time as we move forward, but looking more on educating coaches as much as players.
Well, congratulations. I did not know that. It's
Thank
well
you.
deserved for sure. Every time I turn on social media and PPR, you're there. So it's awesome. Court Reserve, we deal with a lot of clubs. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in the world now. They all want to open up a pickleball club. They
Oh yeah.
all just see the money, right? And then, what we want to do is help educate people because you got all these public park social players. And how do you see in the next coming years that these clubs and franchises are going to kind of change the way pickleball's played? Because 20 years ago, there wasn't really a pickleball club out there. And now there are a lot. They're almost everywhere.
They are. Um, and it's always as I've seen, we've even had clubs, come and go already here in Utah, and it's that fine balance of the passion for the sport and actually good business sense of finding that balance to make the club successful. I think it's been shocking to a lot of people opening clubs how we're going to call it nice, how frugal pickleball players are.
Yes.
They
Good
are.
word.
So that was my professional label for that. Um, Pickleball players, while yes, there's a lot of money in pickleball, they're interesting on how they spend their money in pickleball. And I think it's still because, it's the Wild West and there's so many public courts still available. Do you know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing in growing these clubs as we move forward is it's you're creating an experience, you're creating a community. That is what they are drawn to, that is what they will pay money for. And that's what separates the successful clubs from the ones that don't do as well is paying attention to their community. Your front desk needs to know the names of the people, interact with the people. I want players after they've left my court to feel like they're my friend, not just my student. Um, and that's I think the secret sauce to making these clubs successful is really building the experience in the community and making sure that you're doing it in a business smart way. It's not double down on making your club the fanciest club, because remember, pickleball players are frugal. So there's always that fine balance as these clubs move forward with success, is keeping all of that in mind. Um, I think it's going to be exciting to see where this goes. I mean, I think everybody's a little bit on pins and needles. It's like, are we going to be like racquetball that we're going to boom and then fizzle? Are we the next frozen yogurt shops? Do you remember when frozen yogurt shops were popping up everywhere and now there's not as many frozen? I really hope that's not our case. I hope that we continue with a beautiful long journey like tennis has, and other sports. And I think we can, because there's so much community in this game. But that's the key, is the community, the accessibility. Keep that's pickleball at its truest, right? Not elitist in any way. And I think that's the biggest focus as we grow and we want to continue, because at the end of the day, abundance mentality, right? There's enough pickleball players for everybody.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's how you do it for sure. So I was watching a match the other day, and of course, tennis versus pickleball, because I still play a lot of tennis as well. And I was watching, and every time I watched, whether they had a good point, a bad point, whether they needed encouragement or just needed somebody to yell at, they were always like looking up in their box, right? They had this box of people, this section of people that was their coaches and their family and everything. Who is in Suzee Anderson's box right now?
Who's in my box? Um, well, I got a husband and two great kids that cheer for me. Um, and I've got but yeah, they put up with all my crazy ideas and my crazy hours on court. Uh, but probably one of my biggest motivators, it's going to be all sentimental, but my mother is probably my biggest motivator. She's in my box, but she's in my box from heaven because she passed away when I was 14. But she was my biggest cheerleader as a kid growing up, playing tennis. And so there's always this little piece of me that's like, make mom proud. And I know she's in my box, but it's great to have the support that I have at home with my husband and my kids. Um, my son loves to brag to everybody. He's at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy that, because they have pickleball as an elective and they have a pickleball club at the Coast Guard Academy. And so, and they'll bring it up and he's like, "Yeah, well, let me tell you about my mom." And they're like,
Oh,
"Whatever." And they're like, "What's her name?" And they Google me and I show up and they're like, "Is this your mom?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he looks just like me, so it helps. So
that's amazing.
it's kind of cool to have my kid that I think is so amazing at the Coast Guard Academy actually bragging about his mom that's pretty good at teaching people how to hit a plastic ball.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that. That's awesome. All right. So if somebody needs help with their club, if somebody wants to create an academy, if they want to teach or train their own coaches, how do they get a hold of you? How do they reach out to you? How can they get your advice and help?
Absolutely. So I dropped it in the chat. You can find me at SuzeeAndersonAcademy.com. Um, if you go /coaching. But if you just go to SuzeeAndersonAcademy.com, you'll see me there. But yeah, here's the coaching page. If you scroll down, you can go to clubs and facilities. You can click on there, and I do give a free 30-minute consultation just to let you know how I support, more in detail how I support clubs, what your needs are as a club. I offer full licensure of my curriculum and coach training, as well as I do offer just plain consultation hours too. If you're like, we don't want to buy all in on, curriculum, but we would really love some help and some of your expertise, I also am available just on a consultation basis as well. But I love to help clubs grow. I think that's one of the greatest ways that I can help influence even further than just my little sphere in Utah and this sport that's brought so much just vibrance to so many lives. I love it.
All right. Well, before we go, we have a couple of questions. Of course, we're going to record this today. We're going to put it up on YouTube, and then
Okay.
you guys can see it on the Court Reserve YouTube channel. There's a great question here, actually, for you. What certification, when you talk about certification, we talked about the PPR certification. What should the pros have, and how do they get it? Do they have to go online? Do they have to go in person? Like, how do they get certified?
Perfect. So, um, there's IPTPA, there's PCI, and there's PPR and RPO. I believe there's four now. Um, I can tell you what it takes for PPR. PPR, you go to PPR pickleball.org. You can sign up for a workshop. You have to become a member of PPR and you have to sign up for a workshop. You'd start with level one. Level one is 3 hours online and then 8 hours on court with a coach developer like me. And then we grade you. There's three different levels that you could be graded at. And then the other nice thing through PPR is if you get certified through PPR, you can pay, it's like $70 a year to get this enormous liability coverage. It's this big umbrella policy for everybody. And so that's just great. A lot of the clubs like you to have your own liability. And so that's just one of the great benefits of PPR. But that's what a certification would look like, is that there's usually an online and an in-person portion. I believe PCI is all online. Um, I like an in-person piece to it. I think there's a little more depth to the learning. Like I said, I'm biased towards PPR. I'm not knocking on anybody else. I'm just saying I have a favorite. Um, I also think that Sarah Ansbury, who's built out PPR, is one of the best educators in the sport. And but yeah, that's what certification is going to look like, is they've got to take a workshop. Now, if you already have coaches and you would like to get them certified, you can contact PPR. You can host a workshop. You'll get a free, for the court time, you'll get a free registration for the workshop for one of your coaches. But we can come out and actually you can host a workshop at your facility, and we can train your coaches there as well.
Yeah, we did that at Old Coast Pickleball last year. Actually, we held a certification, and it was great. And I mean, it's great because then you know that your local coaches also are going to come and they can check out your club. Your players know about it because it's on the calendar. So,
Yeah.
there's another question about that. Any thoughts on the IPTPA certification? Do you know anything about that certification?
I do know some about it. My I don't know a lot about it. I have trained coaches that are using my licensure that have done an IPTPA, and that um and it they teach a little differently, and I do have some concerns if it's as modern of a version of teaching as we teach in PPR. Like I said, I'm biased. This isn't meant to be
We'll leave it at that.
meant to be a slam fest.
All right. A couple other questions. Do you let coaches work at different clubs besides your own?
Um, yes. However, in our coaching contract, because we provide curriculum for them, the curriculum does not go anywhere else. They sign that in their coaching contract. We also have a piece in their coaching contract that any student slash client that they gain from interaction at our club and teaching at our club remains a client or student of Club Pickleball USA for, I can't remember if it's 18 months or 2 years after that coach were to leave. Um, so we didn't have that written in our stipulation at first, and we had coaches that would come because we're in Utah. They'd coach all winter long, and then they'd take all their students outside to the public courts. We had that happen a couple of times, and so we altered our coaching contracts, because as the club, you're investing um, in them and some loyalty back. We thought it was a little more given than it was, so we put it in writing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't have a problem with coaches coaching elsewhere, as long as like we provide curriculum that is for use only at our clubs. You can lock them in if you want. It varies kind of club to club.
All right. And so the last question that we have, unless we get any more, do most clubs let their pros play in open plays and court bookings for free?
Um, so we, with our coaches, they start at a membership level where they don't have to pay the membership fee, but so we have, but they still have to pay for court time. I
Mhm.
still pay for court time. I'm the head
Mhm.
teaching pro. I still pay for my court time. If I go play in the 4-0 round robin, I'm not a 4-0. The reason I'm playing in a 4-0 round robin is to market myself as a coach. I don't pay, it's only $5, but I don't pay to play in that round robin because I'm there to market myself. Um, but our coaches do get some member benefits. If they are teaching a certain level of volume, they get higher member benefits. So they get the lower court fees, you know, we have different tiers of our membership. So they get rewarded based on their volume. Um, you give us more, we give you more.
That's the secret sauce right there. That's awesome.
Motivation, baby.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you guys have enjoyed just as much as I have today. We'll put this up on the YouTube channel for Court Reserve. And if you want to know more about Suzee's Academy, you can click the link we put in the Everyone channel or reach out to us at support@courtreserve.com. Thanks, Suzee.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.